I know you think it's silly, but I really can feel something here, Paul.
So what are we gonna do about it?
What if Jacob and May came up for the weekend? She told me once that people pay her to do seances.
This house has an energy all its own. We don't need to find the darkness here, Paul. It's everywhere.
So I want to talk about this movie directed and written by Dan Gagan, we've decided. Is how we say that last name?
That's according to the internet, and we know the internet is to be believed.
This, I think, is an interesting little low-budget number. I mean, this is another one, like I said with The Awakenings, where I constantly thought that I knew where it was going, but as it turns out, I didn't really know where it was going. And I was surprised by that. The movie surprised me on several occasions. Honestly, Matthew, with the exception of one scene that I want to talk about, there's not a bunch that I would change about this movie. It's got people that I like in it. It's definitely made by somebody who understands tone and loves horror movies. And it lulls you into this feeling of a nice PG ghost movie and then slaps you in the face with a vicious, violent horror film. What did you think of We Are Still Here?
The thing that struck me right away that I thought they did a brilliant job of was making it feel like a movie that was filmed in the 1970s.
Yep.
So in exactly the same way that the last two movies didn't sell their period quality to me, this one totally did. And it was like just simple quality of film, lighting stuff. It was consistent, and I think it was done on a pretty low budget.
Very low.
I mean, I think it just goes to show that this kind of thing is achievable. It was shot in upstate New York, but it reminded me of Saskatchewan in the winter, which I really liked.
Yep.
And in fact, I thought it was filmed in Canada. They'd had a very 1970s Canadian, like one of those tax incentive movies that got filmed in Canada in the late 70s, early 80s.
I'm sure that the people who made that movie would take that as an insult, but they shouldn't.
The people that made We Are Still Here?
Yeah, might take it
I think that's exactly what they were going for.
No, but they might take it as an insult that it's reflective of a Canadian-made film, right? But it's not an insult. I mean, I thought that too. Like, this could take place in Saskatchewan. This would be a cool horror movie that could be set here. It's this really rural, really flat, really large, bleak, white, lonely landscape. Should we talk about the plot?
And also... Sure, but I just want to clarify my point too about it looking Canadian, which I don't necessarily think of as a criticism, but that's also not what I meant.
Right.
That a lot of the horror and slasher classics from the late 70s and early 80s were actually shot in Canada because the Trudeau administration in particular was giving tax incentives. So you would have like corporations that just wanted a tax write-off fund some movie that was never, it wasn't a Canadian movie, it would get released in the States, but there was just a bunch of these things churned out in Canada, and this just captured the aesthetic of those movies, and that genre, particularly of horror movie, captured it so nicely for me.
Yeah, and I agree. The premise is once again shockingly familiar. A couple who have recently suffered the loss of their son in a car accident move to a new home in a rural location, meet some very creepy neighbors, and the wife is convinced that she hears her son Bobby in the house. They invite their friends, very amusingly played by Lisa Marie and Larry Fessenden, to come over and help them solve this mystery and decide if the problems are supernatural, psychological, or otherwise. As it turns out, I think they're all three.
Yeah, it does get weird with the multiple antagonists at the end.
Yep.
Where, there are creepy ghosts living in the house killing people, but they're also inexplicably working with the mayor of the town. This is actually where it's going to get into problem territory for me. I'm not sure. You just said that you liked it all except for one scene.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this is what you had in mind, that sort of climax. But before the climax, I guess there was another kind of mini climax. So they first move into the house and creepy things are happening. And then, was it the mayor of the town?
His role seemed a little
guy?
bit rare, but a little bit hard to put your finger on. He definitely spoke on behalf of the town, and he definitely had a lot of authority. But the way he was playing it is that he was just a guy who lived in the neighborhood who knew his way around, right? But we increasingly see that the town kowtows to him a lot.
Yeah, so he stopped by on their first night with his wife, who looked really scared, and he seemed to know just a little bit too much about the people that had lived in the house originally, who had gotten run out of town because why were they run out of town? He killed somebody?
They ran a mortuary.
No, he was selling corpses.
They ran a mortuary, and the story was that the family had been selling corpses, so they were run out of town. What we find out is that family was actually sacrificed to the evil, and their vengeful spirits are trapped in the house. So now the town, instead of doing the sacrifice to keep the crops growing or to keep this town strong, instead of getting their own hands dirty, they leave the house unoccupied until it's time to make an offering, and then they sell it to an unknowing couple, and that's sort of their next sacrifice, right? That's how they keep the wheels spinning. That's the basic setup. So we can be, at the beginning, we're wondering, is it a ghost story? Is it she going crazy? Or are the neighbors out to get her? And in the end, like I said, it's kind of all three.
There's a couple of good scenes that take place at the local bar.
Yep.
The first one is when the couple and their seance friends pop into the local tavern for a hamburger, and they go into the bar, and in true small town in movies fashion, all the heads turn to them and they're made to feel really unwelcome.
Everything drops to dead silence is what I was saying. Like when they get into the restaurant, a bustling restaurant all of a sudden just drops to dead silence. You can hear a pin drop because new people. The only thing I can compare it to is the slaughtered lamb in An American Werewolf in London. Like they hit it pretty hard, but I liked it. I thought it was amusing.
Yeah, I thought that scene was great. And then there was another good scene where the bar owner, who had been really suspiciously snotty to them, was talking to her head waitress. And then there was a knock at the door, and she told the head waitress to go answer it. And then there was a gunshot.
Yes.
And then it was this old guy who I thought was the mayor of the town. And then he came in and he's like, okay, there's people. And it was a nice, surprising scene. Like, it was totally aware. You know that something weird's going on, but it just goes to the nuclear option right away.
Yeah.
And they're just killing people abruptly.
Well, honestly,
which I thought was great.
That's funny because we're agreeing on the movie. I think we both liked the movie, but we seem to be disagreeing on that scene. Because honestly, that was the scene that I was talking about that I have a big question about. Why did he shoot that waitress?
Yeah, so I liked that scene because this is about where the movie changed its tone, almost like in the movie Ravenous, where it starts to feel like it's taking a 90-degree turn here.
Yeah.
Because it's also going to become a lot more brutal after this scene. I do agree that was ultimately confusing, so I liked that scene a lot more when I thought it would be explained. But there's sort of a recurring problem with this movie, which is that a lot that gets told in exposition dumps. I think I mentioned that earlier on in the episode, that this is a bit of a theme with some of these movies. But I think it's the owner of the bar and the waitress that have a conversation out of nowhere about how exactly every 30 years this house needs to have a family. So, like, there's too much specific information that there's no reason for them to be talking about.
Right.
And then there's not enough information when there ought to be information. Like, why did he kill that waitress? I mean, she seems to know something about what's going on, but we never really find out who knows what or why.
Yeah. I think
we also don't know
For me, it was just strange because they were finally making conclusively the reveal on the friendly neighbor man. Like, we knew something was up. This was the scene where we know he's fucking evil. But these are people that are in the town. These are people that are one of they're on his team. They may be incompetent. He may be angry at them. But honestly, I think it would have been as impactful or more if, like, he would ask the waitress something and she was, like, just vaguely dismissive of him. And then he just shot out and smacked her in the mouth. Something, like, really vicious happened. The fact that he just executed that waitress because she told him the restaurant was closed bordered on comic to me.
Well, I kind of thought they were taking a comic turn towards the end, because there's also going to be a time when the mayor is talking to these two charcoaly ghosts, and he tells them that they should have killed the family in the house. He's like, "I'm glad you like killing people, but why did you just decide not to kill these people?" And there was something almost campy about that exchange, because again, with the not enough information, we don't ever we're never really told what the relationship is between this guy and the ghost. Like, why don't they just kill him at that point?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think,
which in fact they do, but why does he think they're not going to?
Well, because he thinks that he's giving them what they want in the family. Here's my interpretation, and I will say that this is my interpretation, so I could be wrong. Bobby, their son, is also in the house. So I think that Bobby is sort of the representative to the other side. These are vengeful ghosts, and they're sort of stuck in the house, and they'd be just as happy to bring this vengeance to the town. In fact, the town deserves their vengeance. So by not sacrificing these people, by luring the town in, the ghosts can exact their vengeance. I don't think that the parents were in any danger of the ghosts. I think that the ghosts attacked the two kids that came in because they were strangers. They seemed to come in uninvited, and they did everything wrong, right? They went down in the basement, right? So those kills were just the ghosts doing their job. My interpretation, and again, this is where I came from, is that they had somebody speaking for them on the other side, and that's why the mother and father were spared.
Yeah, I think that's a great reading of it, but I do think it's significant how far beyond the actual text you had to go to put that reading together, because none of that is really told to us. So, I mean, you made sense of it in a way that...
Yeah, I think we are conclusively told that Bobby is in the house at the very last scene. And when I watched the movie the second and third time, because I've seen it 3 times now, because I really like it, the soundtrack, you can actually hear Bobby's voice a few times earlier in the film. When she says that she can hear Bobby, this actress, Barbara Crampton, who was sort of a scream queen in the 80s and has sort of been reinvented as a character actress in her later life, when she keeps on saying she hears Bobby, this is not a hysterical, grieving mother. She hears Bobby. And at first, Bobby's telling them to leave the house, and when they don't leave the house, Bobby's starting to tell the ghosts, don't kill my parents, kill the people who wronged you.
No, do you actually hear him say that?
You don't hear him say that, but you do hear them say, get out of the house, and you do hear him say, I think, just the word mom earlier in the film. Like, you hear his voice.
So I never thought that, like, I always thought that Bobby was in the house, or at least when we definitively know that there's ghosts. I could put that together. I had always imagined that he was using some ghost power to perhaps protect them, or to dissuade the ghosts from getting them. And so then when there's like the one black character who's in the film that predictably gets killed right away,
Yep.
Or the 2 teenagers that were going to have sex, when they get killed, when the parents are out of the house, because maybe there's no Bobby ghost to save them, and it just so happens that there's this force that's pushing back a little bit against these malevolent ghosts, and perhaps buying them some time, but maybe his powers, he won't ultimately be able to save them. That's what I thought was going on. Your reading of it seems perhaps more plausible to me, but in both cases we just don't know, right? Like, ultimately what we do know is Bobby is in the house, or we can be quite sure from the last scene that Bobby's in the house.
One of the last words out of a big bad are, these people have been in the house for 3 weeks and they're still alive. Is there something special about them? So clearly there has been some mitigating factor.
Right, and I didn't have problems with any of that. What I had problems with was really not knowing what the relationship was between the town and the house.
Right.
Like, we could guess, but we have to guess. And because there was such dramatic shit that happened, like the angry mob that went into the house basically to kill the family.
That was an amazing sequence.
It was great. It was so fun. Like, there were so many fun kills. When the guy was doing the seance, their friend, who actually was psychic, it turned out.
Yeah.
And then it looked like he was going to kill them, but instead he puts a poker in his own eye.
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, there was fun stuff like that. That's also where it felt a little bit similar to the movie Ravenous for me, in that it became a slightly different movie, although it became a movie that I really liked watching.
Yes. That's Larry Fessenden. He's actually a writer-director. The actor who stabs himself in the eye with that poker is a gifted filmmaker, and I've talked about him in other podcasts. Usually he's the guy in the movie for one scene and he dies. He's the guy at the end of session 9 who shows up for work on the wrong day. He often will show up in these like one scene roles in horror movies, and I love that he got a whole part in this movie. He still played the same role as the guy who shows up at the wrong place at the wrong time and dies, but his character was much more rich. I actually really enjoyed him and Lisa Marie as this like hippie couple that everyone would dismiss, but who are actually kind of legit.
Yeah. No, I liked him a lot. I liked him and Lisa Marie quite a lot. In fact, all of the performances I really liked. A couple of the things that I noticed right away, it had this really long opening sequence of them driving up to the house, and it was two actors that I didn't really recognize. As it turns out, she's what's her name?
Barbara Crampton. You may know her from Reanimator.
Sort of protagonist. Barbara Crampton.
You may know her from Reanimator.
Yeah, I don't know the movie that well, and It was made like 30 years ago. But I like that it was Virtual Unknowns. It went for a long time without a single word of dialogue. I liked that. And then when the movie changed tone, I thought it changed tone well. But again, I keep coming back to this. There's at least 2 scenes that are just pure dumps of information that it felt like the writers just couldn't get it in. And so there's these big, long, clumsy dumps. But even with that, we still don't really get it. Like, it felt like the movie really needed another draft. The directing was spot on, but I do think there were script problems.
Yeah. Well, for me, I love that we started in this world of a PG ghost movie. Then it got elevated into kind of an R-rated, ghostly, gruesome slasher movie. And then it just became a full-on free-for-all bloodletting. I mean, I don't know if we're going to have Jerry's today, but the best death is from this fucking film. There's a woman who takes 4 kitchen knives to the throat and then bleeds out horribly in front of the married couple. Totally deserving of her fate, but it is an absolutely grisly and horrifying death. Like, wow. And because I didn't know what was going to be around each corner, and because I was so happy with what was, I'm pretty enthusiastic about We Are Still Here. And I would encourage any horror fan to check it out. So... It maybe
I thought it was good.
It falls short of perfection, but please watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got to be one of the 2 most memorable movies on the list. It definitely has a style of its own that it nails, even with what I perceived as the big tone shift, sort of between the second and third act. I thought they handled that really well. It just occurred to me as I was going through my notes, the young couple, the ones that came into the house to have sex, and then they got killed, the ghost actually chased her out really far. She drove away.
Yeah,
and
that was kind of weird, wasn't it?
Miles away, but the ghosts got her. But if the ghosts can leave the house to get people, why didn't they get the town?
That's a good point.
And why hadn't they done that forever? Like, it's those kind of inconsistencies that I think... if they just thought that kind of thing out a little bit more, I think it would have been even that much better.
You're right, because it attacks her while she's in the car. I had it in my head that maybe they were stuck to the house. I don't know. They don't answer every corner of the plot, but while I was watching the movie, I was fully engaged, and I stand by my statement of if you're a fan of horror movies, you should watch this. I stand by that.